Hello and welcome to a new video. Welcome to January. I don't think this is actually the first video that's going up in January, but Happy New Year. I'm going to say that for my first few videos of the year. As you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, today I'm bringing you my, I wouldn't say worst, but most disappointing of 2021. A couple of them are, I would like class as worst, but I have my reasons which I will explain. I'll do those ones first because for disappointing, it doesn't necessarily mean I disliked the book, it's just I was disappointed by the book. So I'm not being a complete negative Nancy. So I'm just going to get stuck in. So with the worst books, the first one I'm going to talk about is The Heir by Kiera Cass. I DNF'd this book. Now, I don't usually put DNFs on my worst, most disappointing, but this one deserves to be on here because this was horrendous. I was so angry. It was over 100 pages in. I think I was nearing the halfway mark of this book and I couldn't keep doing it. I absolutely love the Selection series. It's a brilliant series, and as far as I'm concerned, it is a trilogy with a collection of short stories. As far as I'm concerned, The Heir and The Crown don't exist. Obviously I haven't read The Crown because I would need to have finished this, but I absolutely hated it. It was like, if you've read the Selection series, you'll know the prince has to go through this like selection where he will choose his future queen. The person that he chooses, this is about their children, and most importantly their daughter, who as the oldest, they have changed the law, which means she is next in line. It's not the firstborn son, it is her, because she is just the firstborn child. And they made the law so that she wouldn't have to do the selection. And then what do? They make her do a selection and try to manipulate her into being like, oh, it's for the good of the kingdom. And I absolutely hated it. And she was so against marriage. And the way it was going the way that she was going to fall in love and want to get married. And no, I didn't like it. I'm going to stop talking about it because it makes me really angry, the direction the author went on this. But anyway, let's move on to the other one that I class as a worst. And that is A Girl in Exile by Ismail Kadari. I read this for Eurovision-a-thon. I can't remember now what country it was for, but I hated this so much. I hated how the author wrote how the women got treated. And it's not like it's a particularly old book. I don't think so anyway. But even so, there's no excuse for how the women were treated in this book. I absolutely hated the main character. He was a vile piece of trash. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter because I could rant about it for ages. But I'm not going to. We're going to move on. So next, I'm going to talk about just disappointing. I will obviously give my reasons for being disappointed, but I won't spoil anything, so this is a spoiler free zone. So this isn't in any particular order, and it's also not in the order I read them. I've just written them down as I thought of them. So the first one is Crater Lake by Jennifer Killick. I was so hyped for this, and because I love a bit of middle grade like horror, because it's like my level of horror as in it's not very scary, but I didn't enjoy this. I was very disappointed. The cover itself is very misleading as to what the book's about, and even the blurb. But even if you take away that, the actual book was really disappointing, and it didn't have me on the edge of my seat at all. And I was just very disappointed in it, which is a massive shame because I was so excited for this. And I have actually now unhauled both the first and second book. I'm not reading the second book because I'm just going to end up being disappointed about that as well. And I don't think it's fair on the author or myself for me to force myself to read it knowing I'll most likely be disappointed. So there we go. Next up is probably my most controversial one this year, and that is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I did not like this book. I was bored. I didn't care about Fitz's life. And honestly, I did not care. I was bored. I wanted to DNF, but I was like, no, do you know what? I'm going to do this. I was buddy reading it. If I hadn't have buddy read it, I probably would have DNF'd it. Having said that though, I would like to just say, I have since read the Live Ship Trader series, like trilogy, which is the trilogy that takes place after this one, but follows different characters. And they were all 4 or 5 stars for me. I loved them. And I have also, in December, read the sequel to Assassin's Apprentice because I would quite like to continue the whole Elderlings series as a whole. And I know they do start to like, or I've heard they start to like link up a little bit more in later books, so I would need to know this. And the more I've thought about it since reading Assassin's Apprentice in, I think it was April, I do think the main reason behind me not enjoying this was because I just didn't care about Fitz as a child. And I know he's older the later the series goes on. So he's like, I think he's like 16, 17 in the second book, if I remember rightly. I could be wrong. So he's a bit older. And then obviously as the series goes on, he does get older. So that was my reasoning for like just going for it with Royal Assassin. I didn't buy it. I used Scribd for it, and I will be using Scribd for Assassin's Quest, which is the 3rd book. But I just wanted to say that I'm not like crapping on Assassin's Apprentice. It just was not for me. I'm like one of the few people that didn't like it. Everyone's obsessed with this book and this series. So it is definitely a me thing, which is why I class it as a disappointing read and not a worst read. Next we have Phoenix Flame by Sarah Holland. Now, Havenfall, which is book 1, was my favourite book of 2020. So you can imagine my disappointment when I did not like the ending of this book. The book as a whole was really good. I really enjoyed it, and it was looking to be a very high 4-star to low 5-star. And then the ending itself was great. I liked the ending. And then there is a chapter. And then I've got nail varnish on my thumb. Go me. That's annoying. I'm going to notice that now. Yeah, then I got to there's like a chapter at the end of Phoenix Flame. And I read that. And there was no need for it. It was like an epilogue type chapter. So it wasn't even like an additional chapter that you could just not read. Even though, why would you not read an additional chapter? Yeah, it was unnecessary. It's left it open, and it made me think, oh, has she made it into a trilogy instead of a duology? No, she hasn't. If at some point she comes out and says, oh, yeah, this is going to be a trilogy, like Catherine McGee has done with the American Royal series, which I'm very excited for. Anyway, if she comes out and does that, I'm going to be happy, because I need to know. I need to know what's going to happen now, because it's been left completely open, and not in the way that you can just figure stuff out for yourself. No, we need another book now. So anyway, I was very disappointed with that. Like, really angered me. But we move on. Next up is one that is purely a me thing as to why it's on here, and that's Alex and Eliza by Melissa de la Cruz. So this is completely on me. I went into this book thinking it was going to be exactly like the musical Hamilton, and it's not. It follows, obviously Alexander Hamilton and Eliza Schuyler are real life people in history, and Hamilton is very much based off of their lives. I don't know how true to it is, but this is like a fictional twist on their lives, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the differences, and it is completely on me. Nothing on the book. Most people would probably love it, but I went into it hoping it was going to be like the musical, and it wasn't, so this one's on me. Next we have Finale by Stephanie Garber, and again, this is a complete disappointment based on the ending. So if you've read, no spoilers, but if you've read the books, you'll know that there is like a kind of love triangle kind of thing on a who is she going to choose, and she chose the person I didn't want her to choose. And that is why the ending was a disappointment. It's completely on me. It's nothing on the book. A lot of people love the ending. Most people love the ending because to be fair, I agree that she did end up with the person she was supposed to end up with. It's just not the person I wanted her to end up with. So it was a disappointment for me. The second book remains my favourite in that series. Next we have Girl Serpentthorne by Melissa Bashadaust. I've probably pronounced that wrong and I've probably said it wrong. I was very disappointed in this. I was so hyped for it. I heard some good things about it and I was excited to read a book with Persian mythology, and I just didn't connect with this. I was really disappointed. And when I say connect, I mean like I just couldn't enjoy it. I can't explain it. I wasn't a fan of the way the story went, and I don't think it was executed really well with the writing. Obviously I'm not a writer, so I can't really comment too much on that, but there was just something making me like not feel like I liked the book, which is a shame because I really wanted to like this because, you know, it sounded amazing. Next we have one of my most disappointing reads because I was so hyped for this book, and that's The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and it was a huge disappointment for me. It was a 2-star for me. I do think it's partly down to the marketing. It was marketed as being like fully sapphic fantasy, and I'm like, the sapphic relationship was hardly there. I didn't feel connected to the relationship. I was like, okay. I thought that the actual story would have been great, but I don't think it was executed well. And I just wasn't a fan, and I was really disappointed. Like, I finished the book just feeling a bit underwhelmed, and yeah, I just wasn't a fan, and I'm not going to be continuing the series. And then finally we have one that I was a bit unsure about whether to add to this list, but it's She Who Become the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. I wasn't as disappointed in this as I thought I was going to be based on other people's reviews. But I was still disappointed because whilst I absolutely loved the characters, I thought the characters were amazing, and I liked like the whole politics and the backstabbing, but the actual plot itself just seemed like so flat, and I just was bored with the plot, which is a shame because it sounded amazing. And a lot of people said this was historical fantasy, and whilst there was a slight supernatural element, there wasn't much fantasy in this. So this is definitely on marketing for why I'm disappointed in it, because I feel like it was definitely, you know, marketed wrong. But yeah. And actually I am going to add one more, and it's weird for me to add this as a most disappointing because this was still a 5-star for me and literally my favourite author, but it's Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. I can't believe I'm putting a Cassandra Clare book on this list, but this just shows how much I didn't like the ending. I loved this book, and there is something at the ending which, if she does not rectify in the 3rd book, I do genuinely see the 3rd book being the first Cassie Clare book I give less than a 5-star, because there's a direction she's going in based on the ending of Chain of Iron, which I do not like. I don't agree with. I don't think it's the right direction to go, and I hate that I've put this book on there, but I can't just not add it just because it was a 5-star and it's my favourite author. Like, I was disappointed with the ending just like I was with Phoenix Flame, so I feel like I can't not add this book on here. But just know, I do still love the book and it is still a 5-star. And you don't know how much it's hurting me to have this book on this list. But it's fine. We're going to just move on from that. But there is my list. I don't know if any of you will agree with me on any of these. I feel like everyone's going to disagree on me with Assassin's Apprentice, and I've sort of got used to that by now. But I hope you did enjoy this video. I hope I haven't crapped on any of your favourite books too much, and if I have, I'm sorry, but it's my opinion. I don't mean to, but I can't help it. But I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye!